What's up, Creed? Today's large cigar review is going to be Carlos Torano Dominico. This is a bundled cigar, rated at a Churchill size, 48 by 7 inches. Churchill's normally, well, Cuban Churchill anyway, is normally a 747, which is 7 inches by 48, or 47 ring gauge, but this is a 48, no big deal. Still in its wrapper, been in my humidor for over a year now. Got some nice oils happening on the, oh, the band's coming right off. Nice oils on the cellophane. This is a leaf on this cigar itself is Dominican, Ecuador, and Connecticut. Again, it's a bundled cigar. Great aroma. You can see the plume in there. Looks good. Real sweet. Good bunching. Show you the band. Anyway, going to cut it, toast it, get to know it. Now this cigar is more of a mild, more on the mild side. It's not, definitely wouldn't put it as a medium. Great draw, almost no resistance. Kind of has a, like a citrus, like a lime. Nice. Very nice, actually. I'm liking that flavor on the prelate there, the pre-draw. So, Torano family is been in the tobacco business for a while. It has been said elsewhere that they literally have spread their tobacco seeds to many countries around the world. Or not around the world, but in and around the Americas, whatnot. So, wind was blowing that torch around a little bit. Slight char, that's okay. We can fix that. There's those sour notes again. Good foot smoke. Earthy. Real gentle through the nose on the retro-hale. Just get rid of that cello. Earth hay. Loads of leather and wood. Lots of wood. Nice and mild. Good smoke output. Holy. Very nice. Starting to burn together nice. Nice color on the ash too, I like that. Anyway. So, like I was saying, the family has a good imprint in cigar world. Now, a lot of that didn't start till after the 1900s, when grandfather Santiago Torano emigrates from Spain to Cuba. Then starts up Torano and Company in 1916. Now, 4 years later, in 1920s, brings his 3 other brothers over, work in the business, help out. And then soon after, they all want a piece of the action. They all want their own business. So from there, they split the company into 4. They each go their own way. Okay? So, 3 brothers went their own way. Santiago stayed where he was. And in the 30s, started buying up tobacco farms. See, originally when Santiago came to Cuba, he, like everybody else, couldn't find a job, got into the tobacco business, or whatever, sugar. So his business was basically being the middleman. He was buying tobacco and then selling it off for a markup. His brothers were helping out doing the same thing. As well as doing a bit of brokering. So, after they all split, the company still remained the same. They just took off and did other things for that company. After they were buying up the farms to produce their own tobacco, they, life was pretty good. Santiago had 4 sons, Carlos Sr. being one of them. And each son had their own farm and their own little business within the company in various regions throughout Cuba. And that's where I'm going to stop it and get back to you at the end of the first third. Okay, so we're back. The first third review. The ash fell off. I was actually walking over across the grass. Fell off, picked it up. That's it there. I don't know if you can see it, nice and white. Nice chunk. Beautiful. That's what you would expect. Anyway, so had some interesting notes. Had a real kind of sour apple. And then kind of like a hint of a black cherry. Aside from that, loads of wood, leather. But smooth. Touch of white pepper. Pepper's starting to come through now on the retro. Enjoyable cigar. I have to say, really enjoying it. Anyway, so 4 brothers running their own place in the different regions of Cuba. Life was good, everything's good. Under the ruling of Batista. Now, Batista, real people person, well, he steps down. What happens? Obviously, the revolution takes over, run him out of town. Batista, that is. Seize control of tobacco, farms, cigar industry, everything in Cuba. Nationalizes it. So, the Torano family fled Cuba, like so many others. And they went all over. Some went to Spain, some went to Mexico, Costa Rica, Jamaica, Ecuador, and Carlos Sr. ended up in Dominican. Now, while he's there, it's the 60s, right? In the revolution, nationalization, anyway, is in the 60s. So during the 60s and 70s, the big wrapper was the Candela. Now, Carlos Sr. was a producer of Candela wrappers. For those of you unfamiliar with the Candela wrapper, that's basically your standard tobacco filler with the green wrapper, or claros, or double claros as some people know them as. So in order to get a green wrapper versus a naturally color cured one, you basically have to have, just like the normal production, you have all your tobacco strung from the casas that are out in the fields, on the farms. The casas are the curing houses. Now, to create the green wrapper, you have to have intense heat. Loads of heat with little humidity. So basically what you're doing is you're trapping that chlorophyll that's in there, that green chlorophyll that gives it the color. And rather than how they usually do it now for a natural cure, color cure, is, you know, slow progression of heat maintained at a certain temperature, much lower than you would a Candela, and maintain a certain amount of higher level of humidity. That way everything breaks down, naturally progresses, naturally changes color slowly. Candelas, you want to trap that color in right away, as fast as you can. Now, one of the ways to do that, and pretty much the only way to do that for that time, was to have a series of fires in the casas. Now, those fires were done by gas and coal. Now, it is said that Carlos Sr. had suffered a heart attack when he went to visit one of his casas that night and found fires were burning, building was hot. Of course, you can't stay in there because it's too hot, plus fumes, chemicals, right? Lack of oxygen. So the workers would be outside, but yet take trips inside for a minute or two at a time just to check on the fire and make sure it's still going and that there's no incidents, and no emergency. The embers, especially, when they float up, catch the leaves on fire. That's how a lot of barns and casas get burned down because of that. So, when Carlos went to go check on him, he found the guys that were supposed to be attending to the fires were asleep. So you got your life's work and your bread and butter in the hands of these guys. And these jokers are sleeping on the job. He was so enraged that he suffered a heart attack right there. And unfortunately died on the way to town to see a doctor. Now, this is in the 60s and 70s. After Carlos Sr.'s death, and a few other family members as well, the rest of the family decided to come together and once again reunite and continue on with business. They had developed the ASP enterprise, and they were controlling the farms of the company because everybody was spread out all over. But they still had their farms and connections and everything. So rather than having a bunch of different entities of the company that came together, stayed with the one. They also created the Central America Tobacco. That was the brokerage portion of the company as well. So they had two companies, family owned. Good earth leather notes. Still that sour note coming through the whole way so far. Nice ash. Get a good look at that. Good burn too. Anyway. So they're farming. They're doing their brokerage thing. And in the 90s, and they were still kind of the middleman, right? Which, to make big money back in the days, the middleman was it, right? Buy low, sell high. Make money just by flipping stuff. Anyway, they realized that with how fast technology was progressing, computers, cell phones, everything, communication between grower and buyer and manufacturer and buyer, there was no need for a middleman anymore because there was more direct communication. And research was a lot easier at the hands of any company. So, from there, they basically dropped the middleman stuff. And at that time, too, it's approaching mid-90s, cigar boom. They figure, well, let's get into manufacturing now. Let's get our own cigar out there. Let's get our own brand, our name. So then they basically ended the ASP Enterprises. Still kept Central America Tobacco brokerage, but then they moved on to the they became Carlos Torano Dominican Cigar Company. During the family merger, Carlos Jr. joined along. He actually went to school elsewhere, became a lawyer, and then came into the cigar industry along with the family merger. So they were producing their own cigars, as well as they took on a few other brands. Now, things were going great. They were producing cigars, manufacturing them. And the late 90s, I think 97, 98, somewhere around there, ended up producing about 18 million cigars. They also had purchased a farm in Honduras. However, the following year, they went from 18 million down to 2 million, which was a big drop. Now, there's that cedary wood note again. It's really nice, very pleasant. Still mild, really mild. But it's an enjoyable cigar. For those of you looking for a big rush, nah. Looking for the head, no. This is nice and enjoyable. Late morning, early afternoon like it is now, perfect. Nice light lunch, big cigar, relax, take your time. Anyway. So the family, they were in trouble. And they needed help. And they ended up finding help in a gentleman, with the hand of a gentleman who ended up being Nestor Plasencia's right-hand guy. Now, Plasencia, if you're unfamiliar with them, big tobacco growers, big in the tobacco industry. But this gentleman, in particular, went by the name of Fidel Oliva. Not Oliva cigar that's out there. This is the Oliva, basically, farming company or family. One's manufacturer, grower, yes. The other, pretty much farming and manufacturing, but not selling. So, Fidel helped them out, helped them to reinvent the Torano Cigar Company. And by doing so, they had to end up dropping all the other brands, focus solely on their own, as well as come up with a few more vitolas and other types of sub-brands within the company. The Fidel Oliva helped to turn all that around. Cigar boom was still escalating, and because of that, they pushed their own brand, started making their way back up the chain again. I gotta hash this guy. Oh yeah, that was ready to fall off for sure. And from there, the company took off. Now, in the late 90s, early 2000s, once the name changed again, basically just the Carlos Torano Cigars became the big thing for the company. They started acquiring other brands to manufacture cigars for. And some of those brands were actually fairly big players. CAO was one of them. Alec Bradley. Five Vegas. And even the Gurkha. They did some cigars for Gurkha as well. So these are big names that were in there. 2005, Carlos Torano Jr. became president of both Central America Tobacco and Carlos Torano Cigars. The rest is pretty much, as they say, history. And they've come a long way. You know, they still have their contacts around, and they still produce cigars of various origins. You know, some of the great ones they have, especially the Exodus. Great cigar. Little floral. Graham. Got some graham there. Touch of bread. More Grammy though. So anyway, I hope you enjoy a little bit of a history on the Carlos Torano Cigar Company. Give you my thoughts on the second third. Wood, light on the pepper, so there's white pepper in there on the retro-hale. That sour note's still in there. The graham, like I just said, bread. Great flavors, fairly mellow. Not, you know, punching away at your palate, but just enjoyable. A little bit of that. It must be the graham, because I keep wanting to say it's like a honey, but I guess it would be a touch of honey in the graham as well. Anyway, I'll be back for the final third and my final thoughts. Stay tuned. So we're not quite done. Not quite finished the third and final. But, you know, the band was loose enough that I could move it along, keep it on there. Basically just for shits and giggles. Still, huge smoke bellowing up. Foot, off the foot and both on the draw. Great labeling. Self-adhesive band. You know, I wanted to do I hate to use the word, it's not a cheap stick. I hate to use the word cheap. This world is subjective in terms of cigars. I've had a very inexpensive cigar that I enjoyed. Price does not dictate whether it's a good cigar. Granted, majority of the time it's been that way. However, I want to do a review where, you know, it's not a $15 cigar, $20, $30, $100 cigar and up. I wanted to do an inexpensive bundle cigar that anybody can afford, that you can pick up, you know, go away camping or whatever with some friends, pass them around, not going to bust the bank, everybody enjoys or has a good time with, and you're not worried about reviewing or flavor, or, you know, you have them with some cocktails. It's just something to hold and puff on and mingle. You know, everything can be enjoyed. It's all on mentality. You know, I have no strength in this. No strength is picked up. Spice is picked up. Strength hasn't. This is something you can have, you know, like I said, if you're going camping, you know, you can smoke these all weekend long and not feel heady, not feel, you know, ill or whatever. It's enjoyable. It's for an afternoon or early morning doing the gardening or something like that. If it gets a little wet or damaged, something you're not going to care too much about, but still enjoy doing. You know, and like I said, to each their own. More flavor did come through. I had some almond saltiness. The pepper's come and gone. Like, you know, a few puffs here, it's there. Other puffs, it's disappeared. Pretty light on the palate afterwards. You know, it's for something that, like, I don't drink when I do reviews. I don't, you know, I drink water, that's it. And, you know, yeah, there's good cigars out there that are more money, but this is enjoyable for a night out. Good, you know, hour and a half stick that you can drink whatever you want. That's not gonna, you don't have to worry about, oh, did that ruin the taste of that, or did that mess up the flavor, or because of that am I getting more sweetness or less, or more coffee notes because or less coffee notes because I'm having coffee. Like, you know, and I think that's part of why some people can't or have trouble picking out notes and studying the palate and studying what particular flavors and notes they're getting, is because of what they drink. Granted, some drinks, you know, bring out certain flavors, but they also mask others. And having a cleansed palate and a less intense or non-flavored drink, such as water, but if in the cocktail world, vodka's one of them. Vodka's a fairly decent one. You know, I'm not telling you what to pair it with, but just from my own experiences and observations, and you know, you hear people talk and discussions and stuff like that. Just, that's what I get out of it. So, you know, take the information, leave the information. It's entirely up to you. It's the thing that separates us from, you know, birds, cats, spiders, alligators, all that. It's the ideas people come up with, the choices people make, rather than just rely on instinct, like the animal world does. So, basically what I'm getting at in closing is this an amazing cigar? No, it's not. Have I had better? Yes. But is it something you can still enjoy that's inexpensive? Absolutely. Is it something that you would go out of your way to hand somebody something, you know, just, oh yeah, here? Well, not really. But it's a good gesture cigar. There you go, have one. But it's all on what you feel comfortable with. It's all on how you perceive things. So, anyway, to each their own. It's just an everyday stick that the average guy can afford and continue doing what they like to do. So, flavor-wise, in the third, like I said, had almond, salt. Wood has never subsided. It's always been there. It's increased and decreased throughout. Some earth tone, white pepper. No strength. But I'm starting to get the buildup in it. Ash has been fantastic. Burn has been great. Construction, fantastic. Like, it's razor sharp. Beautiful, long, white ashes. Couldn't ask for really a better stick. And it's been enjoyable. So, if you have a chance to try one, go ahead. But just keep in mind it is what it is. An inexpensive cigar. But definitely one worth trying. So I'm going to leave it here. This has been the Dominico by Carlos Torano in Churchill. I'm JJ for Cigar Creed. Don't forget to click, like, subscribe, join the Creed, comment, share. Even just to say what's up. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. And see you soon. Thanks.